Yeah, we were waiting for that iPhone SE for a while, weren't we? I thought it was gonna kinda look like the iPhone 6, but 4 inches, and it turned out to just be the iPhone 5S. Looks exactly the same. In fact, unless you have a trained eye like an Apple sheep would. Cause I can see it. But most people can't see the difference between the SE and the 5S, which is great in a lot of ways because it means the factories, Apple didn't have to change at all, so they can just keep pumping out the ones they were making. They just have to update the insides of them. And the great thing for you consumers is all your iPhone 5 and 5S cases work on the SE, which is like, hey, we don't have to throw these out anymore. But yes, if we take a look at the specifications of the iPhone 6S, which is Apple's, flagship iPhone, put them next to the new iPhone SE and we find out there's not that much different at all, but there's a huge difference in price. So in a way, the SE literally beats out the flagship iPhone. And we're not going to see the iPhone 7 until September, so this is kind of a big deal. So if you take a look at the specs, they have the same camera. Both of them shoot at 4K. I'm sure that means both of them shoot at 1080 at 60. They both got 12 megapixels HDR, all that nice stuff. And on the front facing thing, it's the same story, all that great eyesight camera, the 5 megapixels. Look at the processors. Both of them are running the A9 chip with M9 Motion Core, so things are going to be running great on there. All the latest apps, all the greatest games will run really smooth. You can even edit 4K video on that iPhone SE, which I wouldn't recommend editing anything on a 4-inch screen, but hey, if you want to, you can. If you take a look at battery life, they're basically tied on internet and talk time and all that, except the SE actually beats it out just by a little bit when it comes to internet browsing time, and that's simply because the screen on the SE isn't as big, both in resolution and in literal size, as the 6S. So you're actually getting a little bit of a better battery life with the SE. Another thing is that the SE doesn't have that camera bulge that the 6S does. And since the new 9.7-inch iPad Pro, which it should have been called the Air 3, now has a camera bulge as well, the iPhone SE is the only Apple product with a 4K camera that doesn't stick out of the phone. It's actually smooth on the back, which has been gone for a while actually. So if you got that one, you wouldn't have to worry about the phone rocking back and forth while you were using it flat on its back. That's awesome, and I missed that. Yeah, on the SE you get Apple Pay, you get Touch ID, all things you get on the 6S. You can get it in rose gold, their newest color lineup. So basically all those things are the same, so what does the 6S actually beat it on? So the iPhone 6S does have 3D touch, which I'm gonna be quite honest with you, a lot of my friends have iPhone 6Ss, I do not. I'm gonna be getting the 7, but a lot of my friends who do don't use 3D touch. They didn't like it, they weren't used to it, and they didn't want to change the way they did things. They're wrong because it's amazing. But bottom line is, I know a lot of you out there don't want to use that. A lot of people, the first time they got the 6S, they wanted to immediately turn that off because they were worried about turning it on accident. So that's not even that big a deal. Secondly, screen size. So if you're not okay with a 4-inch iPhone, the 6S has got you covered because that's 4.7 inches and a lot more people may be comfortable with that. And another thing is storage. With the iPhone 6S, you can configure it to have 128 gigabytes of storage, but with the iPhone SE, you can only go to 64 gigs, which I think is ridiculous because if you have a 4K camera on something, that takes up quite a bit of data when you're recording. It's a good thing that iPhone doesn't come with 4K as the default film resolution, because if you had a 16 gigabyte SE and you were shooting at 4K, phone would be filled up in about, 10 minutes. It would be nothing. So considering the 6S does have a few advantages, sure, look at the price gap here. The iPhone 6S for 16 gigs starts at $200 with a 2-year contract. Jump over to the iPhone SE, and with a 2-year contract and 16 gigabytes of storage, you start at free. That's a $200 gap for losing screen size, the 128 gig option, and 3D touch. That's it. That's an amazing deal. Guys, take advantage of this. It is not every day Apple likes to lower prices. It may never happen again. And if we don't all buy it now, there might not even be a point in Apple ever lowering prices on something again. See, way back when, I predicted that the SE would be like $100 or $150 because, Apple always likes to charge extra. They always like to be expensive. You can't deny that. But no, they actually went in a step in the opposite direction. So to get that 64 gigabyte SE model, that's $50 with a 2-year contract. $50. Wow. Look at all the potential you have with this really cheap new iPhone that's taking a 3-year-old design scheme. Maybe you don't want to go all out on the iPhone 6S, get this thing instead. It's cheaper and it basically does everything. And you probably don't want to wait around for the 7 because you got a ways till then. Let's see, it's March. End of March. We got quite a few months left until then. What do you think of the iPhone SE? I think it's a really impressive move of Apple to provide this amount of amazing quality tech into such a cheap phone. I'm glad they made it. I don't know if I'll get one. I don't have much of a use for it, but I know tons of people who will be, and will be reviewing it when they get it. Like I said, let me know what you think in the comments below and all that crap. I'm required to say it. They'll shoot me if I don't.
Tell them to subscribe.
Please don't. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you later.